Hi everyone, I'm Aurora from Susan's family. Today I'm bringing you a new piece, the Lingyun Jacquard sweater from Chinese Aesthetics series. This sweater is divided into the front body, back body, sleeves, and collar. First, crochet the front body, back body, and sleeves separately. Then sew the corresponding positions together. After that, pick up stitches at the neckline to crochet the collar. There are two sizes available. The method is the same for both, but the stitch count and row count vary slightly. Here I'll demonstrate using the smaller size as an example. I'll explain different parts separately when we get there. It's important to note that, due to different hand tension among crocheters, the size of the fabric piece will also differ. Before starting the actual crochet, you can make a gauge sample to measure your hand tension. The method for crocheting the gauge sample is explained in a separate video. After measuring, adjust according to the video instructions. Before proceeding with the main piece, let's start with the front body. It's divided into the hem, the body, the shoulder parts. Crochet each section from bottom to top. Bind off at the neckline to form the neck opening. Use short rows on the shoulders to create sloping shoulders. First, let's understand the pattern chart. This chart is for teaching purposes only. Please follow your actual project as reference. The chart looks like this grid format, where each square represents one stitch, corresponding to one loop while crocheting. The chart will provide the cast-on method and number of stitches. When counting the number of stitches per row, count the number of squares, then match it with the number of loops on your needle. Several crochet stitches will be applied, all marked in the pattern chart. I won't go through each one in detail. In the body section, blank squares in different colors correspond to different color yarns. Arrows indicate the direction of the work. The right side is always read from right to left on the chart. The wrong side is read from left to right on the chart. Pay attention when working on the wrong side. You need to work the opposite stitch pattern as shown in the chart. Now let me demonstrate the specific technique. First, work the hem. Cast on alternately with one knit stitch and one purl stitch. Work back and forth. The stitches used include twisted knit stitch, purl stitch, left twisted stitch crossing with one purl stitch and one twisted stitch, right twisted stitch crossing with one twisted stitch and one purl stitch. Next, let's see the demonstration. First, cast on. Note here, the entire garment is worked with two strands of yarn held together, meaning taking one yarn tail from each of two corresponding skeins, and working with the two yarn tails as one strand. For easier viewing, the following tutorials will all use one strand of cotton yarn for demonstration. Random colors for specific yarn, color schemes and hook sizes. Please refer to the detail page of our product and paper instructions. The actual stitch count here is higher. Please pay attention to use corresponding hook sizes for circular needles. Begin casting on. Leave a yarn tail and make a slip knot. Place the loop on the left needle as the first stitch of the cast on. Count as one knit stitch cast on. Next, make one purl stitch cast on. Pick up the right needle below the yarn. Insert upward through the loop on the left needle. Yarn over and draw through, then place it on the left needle. The purl stitch cast on is done. Now make another knit stitch cast on. Place the right needle above the yarn. Insert downward between these two loops. Note: this is the position between the loops. Do not pass through the loops. Yarn over and draw through, then place it on the left needle. The knit stitch cast on is done. The cast on looks like this, alternately making purl stitch cast on and knit stitch cast on. Note, from now on, always insert into the left side. These are the cast on between the two loops. When casting on, with yarn below for purl stitch cast on, place the right needle below the yarn. Insert upward between the two loops. Yarn over and draw through. The purl stitch cast on is done. With yarn above for knit stitch cast on. place the right needle above the yarn. Insert downward between the two loops. Yarn over and draw through. The knit stitch cast on is done. Follow this pattern. Continue until you reach the required number of stitches. Note, different sizes have different cast on numbers. Refer to the chart for your specific size. The last stitch should be a knit stitch cast on. This completes the cast on. We'll keep the starting tail of the yarn on the left hand side, as the right side of the piece. Now work row 1. First, knit 1 twisted knit stitch. Insert the right needle downwards into the back strand of the left side loop. Note, you're inserting into the yarn loop, not between two loops. Yarn over and draw through. The twisted knit stitch is done. Next, purl 1 stitch. When alternating between knit and purl stitches, remember to yarn over to the proper position first, then work the corresponding stitch. Here, wrap the yarn over the top of the right needle, then purl the stitch. Next, knit 1 twisted knit stitch. Note, first yarn over to the bottom of the right needle. Insert the hook from top to bottom into the back strand of the left side loop. Yarn over and draw through. The twisted knit stitch is done. You can see that. After finishing the twisted knit stitch, on the side facing you, a twisted braid-like texture forms underneath. Purl the next stitch. First yarn over to the top of the right needle, then work this stitch. Continue alternating 1 twisted knit stitch and 1 purl stitch. When alternating knit and purl stitches, first wrap the yarn to the proper position, then work the corresponding stitch. That means when knitting a twisted knit stitch, the yarn is underneath, and when purling, the yarn is above. You can also follow the texture here. The front loop is the knit stitch cast on. Work a twisted knit stitch. The back loop is the purl stitch cast on. Work a purl stitch. Repeat this process to finish this row. That completes row 1. If you're not sure how to count rows, you can place a stitch marker on any chain on the right side to mark it with a stitch marker. This makes it convenient to count rows later. If you don't have stitch markers, you can use paper clips or safety pins instead. Continue working row 2. We will work this row on the wrong side. Read the chart from left to right. You need to work the opposite stitch techniques shown in the chart. That means working a twisted purl stitch for the twisted knit stitch symbol, and work a knit stitch for the purl stitch symbol. The first stitch is a twisted knit stitch symbol. Here, work a twisted purl stitch. Place the right needle below the yarn. Insert upwards into the back strand of the left loop. Yarn over and pull through the strand. The twisted purl stitch is now complete. Next, work 1 knit stitch. Remember to position the yarn properly before working the stitch, then work the corresponding stitch technique. Next is the twisted knit stitch symbol. Work 1 twisted purl stitch from bottom to top. Insert into the back strand of the left loop. Yarn over and draw through. The twisted purl stitch is now complete. You can also follow the texture. If you see a braid below, work a knit stitch. If you see a horizontal line below, work a twisted purl stitch. Continue following the texture. Finish this row. The edge stitch texture might be less noticeable. Just follow the chart. This completes row 2. Next, work row 3. Start with 1 twisted knit stitch and 1 purl stitch. Then work 1 left cross stitch with 1 twisted purl stitch and 1 twisted stitch. We'll call this the left cross stitch for short. To work this stitch, first, use the right needle to pick up the third stitch to the left from the front. After releasing the first 3 stitches on the left needle, pick up the next 2 stitches from behind in order. Pay attention to keep the loop direction consistent with the original. Then pick up the slipped loop. Work 1 twisted knit stitch. One purl stitch. 1 twisted knit stitch. This completes the left cross stitch. Next, follow the texture below, which alternates between purl stitches and twisted knit stitches. Work 5 stitches. Then work 1 left cross stitch. Here I'll demonstrate the method using a cable needle or yarn needle. You can use any tool. First, slip the first 2 stitches onto the tool. Place them behind. You can press the tool with your hands to prevent stitches from slipping. Then work 1 twisted knit stitch. Next, pick up the 2 stitches from the tool with the left needle. Work 1 purl stitch and 1 twisted knit stitch. That's how you complete the left cross stitch. When actually crocheting, just use whichever method you're comfortable with. Continue following the texture to work 5 stitches. Then work 1 left cross stitch. This row is worked as 1 left cross stitch every 5 stitches. Keep following the chart to finish this row. That completes row 3. Now let's work row 4. This row is identical to row 2. Alternate between twisted purl stitches and knit stitches. Continue following the pattern to finish this row. That completes row 4. Now let's work row 5. First work 4 stitches according to the texture. Then work 1 right cross stitch combining 1 twisted stitch, 1 twisted stitch and 1 purl stitch. We'll simply call this the right cross stitch. Here's how to work this stitch. First, take your right needle and pick up the second and third stitches from the left behind. After releasing the first 3 stitches on the left needle, pick up 1 stitch from the front on the right side. Then pick up the loops you just picked up. Next, work 1 twisted knit stitch, 1 purl stitch, 1 twisted knit stitch. That completes the right cross stitch. Then follow the texture below. Work 5 stitches. After completing, work 1 right increase stitch. Here I'll demonstrate the method using a cable needle or yarn needle. First, use the tool to slip the first stitch to the front. You can press the tool with your hands to prevent stitches from dropping. Then work 1 twisted knit stitch and 1 purl stitch. Next, use the left needle to pick up the stitch from the tool. Then work 1 twisted knit stitch. That completes the right cross stitch. When actually knitting, just choose the method you're comfortable with. Continue working 5 stitches according to the texture. This row is worked by making 1 right cross stitch every 5 stitches. Continue working this row according to the chart. That completes row 5. Row 6 is worked the same as row 2. Just follow the chart to finish it. This is the swatch after completing row 6. We can count the rows on the right side. The stitch marker marks this loop, which was formed during casting on. 1 twisted braid equals 1 row. Here are 5 braids. Plus the loops on the needle count as 1 row. So we've worked 6 rows in total. This is how to count rows. Now we've covered all the stitch techniques for the hem. Pay attention to the direction of crossing stitches while crocheting. Continue working the hem section back and forth according to the chart. That completes the hem section. Next, let's look at the body section. It's worked back and forth in stocking stitch on top of the hem, and work the pattern in the middle position. The new stitch techniques used are knit stitch, K2 tog. Next, please watch the demonstration before working the body. First, switch colors. Take out the required yarn. Leave a yarn tail and tie a knot on the original yarn. Then pull it to the base of the yarn tail. Cut off the hem yarn after leaving a distance. Now the color change is complete. Next, work row 1. Note that you need to change the needle size for the body section. Everyone please refer to the chart for selection. First knit a few knit stitches. The stitch count varies for different sizes. Pay attention to refer to your size chart. After completing, the next stitch is K2 tog. The way to work this stitch is, insert the right needle from left to right through the first 2 loops. Knit them together as one knit stitch. This completes the K2 tog. Then knit 2 stitches. Next, work 1 K2 tog. Insert the right needle from left to right through the first 2 loops. Knit 1 stitch. The K2 tog is now complete. After that, alternate between knitting 2 stitches and 1 K2 tog. Continue until you reach the required stitch count. Note that the pattern at the end of the row varies slightly for different sizes. Just follow the chart corresponding to your size. This completes the first row. Continue to work row 2. All stitches are knit symbols. Work this row on the wrong side. Purl all stitches. Row 2 is now complete. For smaller sizes, continue with the pattern section. Larger sizes need to knit 2 more rows before proceeding. Then proceed with the pattern section. Now let's learn the pattern knitting method. The colors in the chart represent the corresponding yarn colors. This section uses both Intarsia and Fair techniques. First, we'll learn the pattern knitting method. Once mastered, then based on actual situation, follow the chart to knit. Intarsia is a method of carrying yarn vertically. Fair is a method of carrying yarn horizontally. Generally, it's distinguished by the pattern. For larger color blocks with identical colors like this, you can use vertical yarn carrying Intarsia knitting. Intarsia knitting requires preparing small yarn balls in advance, for convenient knitting later. For positions where the number of stitches skipped in the middle is small like this, you can use horizontal yarn carrying Fair knitting. No need to wind small yarn balls. Here I'll teach you a method of winding small yarn balls. Here I'll teach you the figure 8 yarn winding method. To wind small yarn balls, there are 2 situations. One is taking yarn from an independent yarn ball to wind. The other is when the yarn is connected to the knitted piece. Regardless of which situation, the winding method remains the same. First, leave a yarn tail about 10 centimeters long, or slightly longer. This yarn tail is the end that will be pulled out later. Place it like this in the crook of your left hand. Pinch it with your thumb. Then wind the yarn in a figure 8 pattern around your hand. If winding a small ball while the yarn is connected to the knitted piece, wind it like this. Note that this end is connected to the work piece. This makes it convenient for pulling the yarn later. Keep the tension moderate while winding. The more stitches in a color block, the more yarn you'll need to wind. The fewer stitches in a color block, the less yarn you need to wind. If you run out of yarn later, just join new yarn and continue knitting. Once you've wound roughly to the desired size, leave a tail and cut the yarn. Then tie a knot like this. You can first wrap the middle several times to secure it. If the yarn is slippery, tie a few extra knots. If the yarn tail is too long here, trim it slightly shorter. This is the method for winding small yarn balls. When using them, just gently pull the yarn like this. The benefit of winding small yarn balls is that during knitting, the yarn stays relatively secure. The yarn ball won't slip off. When there are many yarn balls, they won't tangle with each other. Convenient for crocheting. If the small yarn ball is nearing the ending and becomes a bit loose, you can unwind it and rewind it. Or if you made a mistake while crocheting and had to unravel a lot of stitches, you can also wind the unraveled section into a separate small yarn ball. This end is still attached to the work piece. After winding, secure this part with yarn. That's all you need to do. Next, depending on your situation, prepare the small yarn balls needed for starting to crochet. Later, when you need multiple yarn tails of the same color, depending on the situation, wind the corresponding number of small yarn balls for backup. Here I'll use the small size as an example. Let me briefly explain the crochet sequence first. Row 1 of the pattern starts on the right side. Join the color yarn corresponding to this pattern. This is called color 2. The original yarn is called color 1. Note that joining yarn on both front and back sides is done on the wrong side. After finishing color 2, continue by switching to color 1. There are many stitches between the two color 1 sections. To keep the finished product looking neat, continue crocheting after joining the yarn here. After finishing color 1, Similarly, join yarn to crochet color 2. Then join yarn to crochet color 1 again. Join yarn to crochet color 2. Here the distance between color 1 sections is closer. Simply pull the color 1 from this side, and continue crocheting to the end. Pay attention when switching colors. This means after completing one stitch, pause and secure the inactive yarn underneath. This way the different colors stay connected. Row 2 of the pattern is worked on the wrong side. After finishing color 1 on this side, continue with color 2. Pay attention when changing colors. Make sure to cross the 2 yarns. After finishing color 2, continue crocheting with color 1 on this side, then switch to color 2. Pay attention to use the yarn ball at the corresponding position. The color change edge should be secured on the wrong side. This is the Intarsia technique. Next, alternately use the yarn balls at corresponding positions. Finish the remaining part of this row. If the yarn balls cross while crocheting, make sure to untangle them promptly. Crochet on the right side. First use color 1 on this side. After completing, pull over color 2 from this side to crochet. When reaching color 1, check here. The number of stitches of color 2 between these two color 1 sections is small. You can directly pull color 1 from the left side to crochet. Similarly, the number of stitches of color 1 between two color 2 sections is small. Continue crocheting with color 2 on this side. Then switch to color 1. This horizontal yarn carrying method is called fair-all knitting. Continue switching colors to crochet the remaining part. Finally, the number of stitches of color 2 between these two color 1 sections is small. After finishing color 1 and color 2, pull color 1 over to complete this row. Now continue to row 4 of the pattern. Starting here, the interval between color 1 and color 2 sections is small, and color changes are frequent. This will result in two color 2 strands appearing on one side. Choose the yarn ball you're currently using. Cut the other yarn, leaving a 10 cm tail. Weave in the ends on the wrong side. For longer intervals, continue crocheting Intarsia. For shorter intervals, do fair-all knitting. Complete this row. You'll notice, horizontal and vertical yarn carrying methods are used together. You need to decide based on the chart situation, and your personal preference. Note: for larger color blocks in the pattern, try to use the Intarsia knitting method. This will make the finished pattern look neater. Next, please refer to the following Intarsia knitting and flat fair-all video demonstrations. Pay attention while knitting. Make sure the fabric is flat after finishing, with no small holes on the surface. First, use the original main color yarn to knit normally. Keep knitting until the last stitch before the Intarsia area. My stitch count is low here, so I'll only explain the method. The stitch count and colors are not for reference. After finishing, I'll explain how to join the yarn, whether on the right side or the wrong side. The method for joining the yarn is identical. I'm joining the yarn from the wrong side here. Take the new yarn and tie a knot with the original yarn. Pull it to the base. This is how you join the yarn properly. If joining on the right side, knit until the last stitch before changing colors. Then tie a knot between the new yarn and the original yarn, and pull it to the base. We're using the stranded colorwork method here, so the main color yarn stays in place. Simply switch to the stranded color for knitting. I'll refer to it as color 1 later. After finishing, we need to continue with the main color yarn here. Then leave color 1 in place. And use this yarn to finish the row. After finishing the starting color, switch to this yarn for the next stitch. Pause the original yarn. Pay attention, the paused yarn should be placed above, and the yarn to be knitted below. That means crossing the 2 yarns. Then begin knitting the corresponding stitch count. After knitting 1 stitch, check the wrong side. The paused yarn is now underneath. This ensures the 2-color texture connection stays tight, without looseness, maintaining neat appearance. The yarn pulled over here. Keep tension moderate. Continue knitting downward. Pay attention when switching colors during knitting, whether on the right side or wrong side. Always cross the 2 yarns once. This is the stranded color work technique without yarn trapping. Flat knitting stranded color work. I'll demonstrate using a swatch. First, knit a row on the right side. Read the chart from right to left. 2 colors are needed for this section. Different colored squares on the chart, corresponding to different colored yarns. Refer to the chart. Use the corresponding color to knit. First, join the yarn. We'll call the original yarn color 1. The new yarn color 2. Tie a knot with the 2 yarns. Then pull the knot to the base. For future yarn joining situations, just follow this demonstration. Then follow the chart using the corresponding colored yarn. Here I'll first demonstrate changing colors on every stitch. First, I'll knit 1 knit stitch with color 1. Then hold 2 strands of yarn with one hand. Wrap the yarn around the pinky and ring finger respectively. Now each finger holds 1 strand of yarn. Continue knitting 1 stitch with color 2. Pick up the strand from underneath color 1. After changing colors and knitting 1 stitch, there's a carried strand behind. Gently stretch the fabric. Make the carried strand level with the fabric. Don't pull the carried strand too tight to prevent the fabric from puckering. Continue knitting 1 stitch with color 1. Here pay attention to carry color 1 above. Remember to gently stretch the fabric. Once done, continue picking up color 2 from underneath to knit 1 stitch. Note: when picking up strands, ensure the 2 strands don't twist. After each color change and knitting 1 stitch, gently stretch the fabric. Ensure the fabric stays flat, meaning don't pull this carried strand too tight. Continue knitting. Carry color 1 above. Pull color 2 from underneath. If it's inconvenient, using only the index finger, you can use the middle finger to pick up strands when working with color 2. After completing, check that color 1's carried strands are all above. Color 2's carried strands are all below. The texture looks neat and the yarn won't tangle. Actually, you don't have to separate above and below. Just keep the right side looking nice is enough. This is the case when switching colors every stitch. Next, when working with the same color for fewer than 4 stitches, you can follow this demonstration. Pay attention to the stitch count for each color. By referring to the pattern, don't make mistakes. If it's more than 4 stitches, you need to carry the unused yarn. Let me demonstrate the carrying method for 5 consecutive stitches. First switch colors and work 3 stitches. Then use your index finger to pick up the other yarn. Pull it through from underneath. Continue working 1 knit stitch with this yarn. The unused yarn has now been carried once. The carried yarn should be level with the fabric piece. Keep the fabric flat. Continue working 1 more stitch. This way, the 5 consecutive stitches are completed. This is the carrying method. After each time you carry the yarn, gently stretch the fabric. When carrying the yarn, always carry it after every 3 stitches. I'll demonstrate carrying the yarn while working 7 consecutive stitches again. Pay attention to ensure that the 2 strands don't twist when picking up. Here, pick up from underneath to work 3 stitches. Then from underneath the other strand, pick up this strand. Work 3 more stitches. Gently stretch the fabric after each carry. Because of carrying the yarn, the 2 strands will twist together. When knitting later, remember to separate them. Continue to carry the yarn and work 1 stitch. This completes the 7 consecutive stitches. If there are more consecutive stitches later, carry the yarn a few times. Use the same method as before. You can see, we carried the yarn twice here. Next, follow this demonstration and knit until the second to last stitch of the row. After finishing the second to last stitch, when working the last stitch, no matter how many stitches apart, carry color 2 once. That's the end of this row on the right side. Continue to knit the wrong side row. When working on the wrong side, always read the chart from left to right, and the chart represents the right side texture. So on the wrong side, we should work a wrong side definition of the symbols. Therefore, this row should all be made in purl stitches. With your right hand, wrap the yarn. Place the needle under both strands of yarn. Use the corresponding yarn to work one purl stitch. Gently stretch the fabric to avoid pulling it too tight vertically. Make sure not to tighten the fabric up and down. Then continue to pick up the corresponding yarn, and work purl stitches normally. When picking up strands to knit, ensure the two strands of yarn are not twisted. When working on the wrong side, after switching colors and completing each stitch, gently stretch the fabric immediately. Ensure the fabric lies flat. If the consecutive stitch count does not exceed 4 stitches, switch colors using the method shown here. If it exceeds 4 stitches, you still need to carry the yarn. The method is the same as when working on the right side. Here, I'll demonstrate the technique for carrying yarn over 7 consecutive stitches. First, work 3 stitches. Carry the yarn once, then work 3 more stitches. Carry the yarn again and work 1 stitch. That's how you complete 7 consecutive stitches. And carried the yarn twice. Next, refer to this demonstration. Follow the chart. Continue working until the second to last stitch of this row. Pay attention to keeping the yarn carrying layers consistent with the bottom. One yarn always stays on top while the other stays underneath. This creates a more beautiful texture. When reaching the corresponding position, you can also carry the other yarn when working the last stitch. This completes the wrong side row. This is the method for stranded colorwork knitting. After finishing the pattern section, the small size body is complete. For larger sizes, you'll need to switch needles and work even for a few more rows. Follow the chart instructions. This completes the large size body as well.